This is the Vet Alumni Podcast with Tek Prem.
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek, he's Prem. And look, the Phils are going through it right now, but Prem, as one team falls apart, another team is coming together.
It's exciting, man. Everything I've been hearing about the Birds is positive.
Training camp is underway. The open practice at the Link was Thursday night. And from everything that I've read and everything that I've heard from people that were there firsthand, including a lot of the writers and a lot of the radio guys, Jalen Hurts looked sharp.
I think he's just very refocused and re-energized. And when you know you got Saquon behind you now, really, truthfully,
he's looked as advertised as well.
Yeah, he has. They could run the option every 2 plays and probably win a lot of football games. That's how good this team could be.
Now, see, Hurts came out of OTAs with a ton of question marks. He looked terrible in OTAs. He wasn't sharp. He was sloppy. He was just not prepared.
Yeah.
And he was throwing his coach to some degree and the organization to some degree under the bus.
Things have changed.
Yeah, well, he comes out now. Now he's looking sharp. Looks like, I forget who used the word. Maybe it was ESP. Somebody used the word surgical. He looked surgical
that's what I'm hearing.
Began.
I saw a report a couple days ago said over the last 2 practices, 11 TDs, no interceptions, and 11 on 11.
That's something.
That's pretty good, man. I think the kid is really focused.
Well, he needs to be because
the noise is gone.
He's contagious. His energy and his whole demeanor is contagious. If he's playing well and his demeanor is there, then everybody else will follow suit.
I know. He's a real leader in every sense of the word. That's what I love about Jalen. Could he be a little bit different on the sidelines sometimes? Sure. You know, every quarterback has certain things they could probably get better at.
Yeah.
But Jalen is a leader. He believes in what he's got on the field. These guys are going to play with a lot of confidence this year, and I think Kellen Moore was the right pick.
Yeah, listen. We'll see.
You have to be determined, but I think it's going to turn out to be that he was the right pick.
The one thing I like, just from some of the little sideline videos I saw from the open practice, where, it's a lot of Jalen Hurts under center, which is different.
I like it, though, because you have that threat of a world-class running back.
Well, yeah,
now.
That's what we needed. We needed Hurts under center for 2 years.
I know.
And we didn't get enough of it. And when they were winning games and they went to the Super Bowl, nobody was saying anything about it. But the minute, things start to fall apart, everyone's talking about why isn't he under center?
You might see some old-fashioned eye, man. I really want to see the eye formation.
We've been wanting to see the eye formation for years
Or like
now.
the pro set, with the offset fullback.
That's all I want.
I would love it, dude.
That's all I want.
And then you send him out in the flat. You faked it a running back, and then you got nothing but wide open receivers.
The dual back scenario. They just would. I think they did it in the last 2 seasons, that we've been calling for. They've done it like 3 times.
Yeah, you know what I think you might see from Kellen Moore? I want to see them maybe motion A.J. Brown into the backfield sometimes. The guy is a linebacker.
Yeah. I'm not against anything that involves different looks.
Get creative.
You got to get creative. And I know that they're going to do that with Saquon.
I think so.
I heard a lot of people saying, well, how are they going to use Saquon? And, how often are they going to use him? They're going to use him.
He's a stud. He's a stud. You can use that guy in many ways.
You're going to lose him for about 3-4 games a year.
Probably.
That's just what it's going to be.
Probably.
But that brings up the fact that there's some pretty interesting camp competitions, and one of them being Kenny Gainwell versus Will Shipley.
I like Shipley. When he got drafted, I think we were recording the show as it was going on. Yeah. And we were pretty excited about Will Shipley.
Absolutely.
After seeing the tape.
Well, I didn't really know much about him.
Me neither.
So I look at Will Shipley, and I'm like, I automatically know how this Eagles organization operates. They will play a guy because he's been in the system before they go to a guy who hasn't been in the system.
Right.
So I expect Gainwell to win this competition just off the fact that he is a system guy.
Well, he probably
who's been here for years.
He probably should. I mean,
I don't
fine.
know that he's when it comes to when they come out of the backfield and yards after the catch type stuff. I think Will Shipley could probably be more of a difference-making guy.
He probably could be. I mean, based on the tape, and he played it in the SEC at SEC school.
Yeah.
So, you're not playing in the WAC.
No.
Or at North Dakota State Bisons.
No, you're playing against top guys.
Yeah, I think that was a great pick. That was a steal at that point. I mean, we can just go back to the draft for a second and just talk about how great the Birds did.
Yeah, speaking of that, Quinyon Mitchell, the first-round pick, he looks special. He's been battling it out against AJ, talking trash.
Yeah.
They've been getting in
Love
little
it.
fights.
Love
It's
it.
really been the talk of camp has been how well Quinyon Mitchell is playing A.J. Brown. He's broken up passes. He's frustrated him. He's made it so that A.J. was open for a second, and then he took it away, and Jalen didn't even throw that direction, and you can just see frustration was mounting.
Yeah.
And it was, and that's tremendous. That's what you want to see out of a rookie corner. Looks like he's all but got that job.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest camp competition that I knew it was going to be based off of OTAs, and it is heating up. It is the number one competition to watch is Rodgers versus Ringo for the other corner spot.
Yeah,
that's
I
what
like
it's going to
that.
be.
I like that. And the thing, just to go back to what you said about Quinyon, the good thing for him is he's going up against one of the best receivers in the league every day.
It's so good because now
the level of practice and competition.
when he goes to play teams that don't have an AJ Brown,
I know it's
going to
be a
great.
joke. It's going to be a
Yes.
joke. When you talk about teams with just the average A receiver or B receiver, I should say.
Yeah.
Because Slay's going to be on the A receiver.
Yes.
That's a big thing, man. These guys I think they're going to be way better than we expected initially defensively because you remember, you got Fangio steering the ship, and this guy knows how to drive the boat.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up using, at least to start, Quinyon in the nickel.
That's fine for me, yeah. I mean, warm him up a little bit.
Because I don't know if it'll be Quinyon and Slay and Rodgers and Ringo, because Rodgers and Ringo are both outside corners, and it looks like Quinyon played a little nickel in some of these practices. Maybe they're saying, we know Slay's got the other one locked, but maybe it's Rodgers and Ringo on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Quinyon, because Rodgers and Ringo have been pretty much evenly splitting snaps.
Yeah, I hear Rodgers has been as advertised as what they expected before the betting suspension.
Yeah, well, part of it is even though he was suspended, he was continuing an NFL schedule. He was working out during the week like he usually would. And on Sunday, he would do these simulated training.
Games. Okay, yeah.
Where he would just go all out.
That's smart.
For the length of how much he would be on the field. So he's in game shape. He's game ready.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it. And
another steal for Howie.
Yeah, and how about this steal, since we're talking about steals?
Yeah.
Another rookie, Johnny Wilson, the wideout.
I hear
He's competing. He's competing.
Florida State, right?
Yeah, he's been standing out. He's a big guy. He's a big guy.
Yeah,
he's got tremendous size.
It's exciting.
So that is advantageous.
Going like Dorial Green Beckham.
Well, hopefully it's not like Dorial.
He was a big guy.
He was a big guy.
He was a big guy.
And they also drafted a guy, I forget his name. I think he was a Notre Dame guy years ago. And he didn't pan out, but he was supposed to be a great receiver.
Some with an M.
I forget, but he was a big guy.
Martin something.
I don't know if it was Martin.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Billy something. I don't know. It was a big guy, and he was supposed to be that kind of. And we haven't really had those big guys.
The last big receiver we have is probably Jordan Matthews was a bigger guy.
Yeah, he was a bigger guy, and wasn't the guy who was good for like 3 games and then.
Fulgham. Well, Fulgham was wiry though. He was wiry.
All right, he wasn't like a huge.
Yeah, he was just a little. I think he was 6'3".
This Johnny Wilson guy, he's like he's a big guy.
Fulgham was more like a Pinkston.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but Pinkston, you know what?
He made some grabs.
He
made some catches. There was one in particular in a Monday nighter against the Packers. I'll never forget. The front corner of the end zone. Remember that to win the game? It might have been like 04 season, 03 season.
I bet you if I saw
McNabb
I watch some of these highlights
because
they show up on my feed on my YouTube shorts, and they'll based on stuff that I've looked up, it just knows what I'm looking for. So these things pop up every once in a while. I get these old highlights, Eagles highlights.
Love it. So do I.
And I don't remember it until I see it, and then I go, I remember that.
It's muscle memory.
I know.
WIP yesterday in honor of Merrill getting the honor that he's going to have in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They were playing like great Merrill clips from, the early 2000s, 90s.
Yes.
They played the Westbrook return, I think,
his
against
voice
the
was
Giants.
a little higher.
Yeah, it was different. The real bad call in 2018 when the Eagles recovered a fumble in Dallas, but they still gave it to the Cowboys anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a disgrace, a disgrace. He said disgrace like 70 times. Just a phenomenal recap. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying. As I'm listening, I'm remembering the visuals as I'm driving.
I also, when they play old stuff like that, I remember. And the Phillies, they'll do these old clips. Tom McCarthy will show at some point in the first few innings of a game, they'll come on with some moment. Like Jim Thome hit a home run he showed the other night. And it was like, I remember it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have if I didn't see it. I saw it and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. It's just so many clips and highlights that I've totally put in the back of my mind, pop right up, the visual. All right, the O-line has some competitions, too. Mekhi Becton is looking like a beast. The guy is good. He's a monster.
You need depth there, man, especially losing a guy like Kelsey. I mean, that's one thing that's understated is how is the center position going to be?
Hey, Cam Jurgens, so far so good.
Not in game mode yet, though.
No, not in
I got to
game
see
mode.
Some preseason,
But
pre-snap adjustments.
He's the closest thing when like he rolls out to the side
Yeah,
like
he looks
Kelsey
like
used
him
to
a
do.
little bit, yeah.
He looks like him
He
a
does,
little
he
bit.
does, he
and
does.
I've never seen another center do that.
I thought the same thing when I saw a couple clips.
That's why Kelsey picked him. He handpicked him because he said, he's doing my moves. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what you want. I mean, hey,
that's
look,
what you want.
Jason Kelsey rocking the backwards Jeff cap on TV. You saw his first appearance breaking down Bears and something.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. But he had the back. Yeah,
I just saw a screenshot of it. And it was phenomenal.
I thought it was hilarious. I don't know if it was was that Kay Adams, the Waking Up with Kay Adams or whatever, and she had like Lane Johnson on and asked, how's the transition for Kelsey been? And Lane Johnson was like, I don't know. I come in the morning, I come in to do my workout and I walk in the weight room and he's already there, like mid workout. Like he goes to now they moved, he's got his own locker in the coach's locker room and it's like she's like, well, does he think he's playing? Well, I don't, he's not playing, but I don't know if he knows that. I know he knows, but does he really know that he's not playing?
Well, you know what? It might take a little bit of time. But here's the thing, Tek.
Yeah, I know.
We are 6 Devontae Smith days away.
6 days.
From the preseason opener in Baltimore. What a great first gauge.
Which, by the way, last year, even though, I mean, the Phils were up and down or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. I don't gauge, my excitement for the Birds based on whatever the Phils are doing.
No, they're mutually exclusive.
So like last year, I remember just endless time until that first open practice. That open practice is over. They did it already. Now we're 6 days away from the first preseason game.
They did it early this year. Usually it's a Sunday they do them.
Right.
Because I've gone a couple times with Mom and my stepdad, and they were disappointed it was a Thursday. They couldn't go this year, and I didn't go either. Did you go?
What, to the open practice?
Yeah.
No.
I went a couple years back. It's fun, man. I mean, it's just a cool vibe.
To be honest, it just snuck up on me.
Yeah,
I didn't know about the open practice until the day of the open practice.
I didn't either. I usually would get emails from the team.
I didn't see anything about it. I don't know if I heard it. By the way, I've been kind of on and off of the radio. So, I haven't really been paying attention too much to the radio. I don't want to wake up and
haven't either, actually.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you that, by the way, has everything to do with the Phillies. That's why I haven't been on the radio. I don't want to wake up to that. And I also don't want to wake up to endless conversation about Jalen Hurts when there is something major league wrong with the Phillies right now. And I wake up and the conversation right from 6:30 a.m. is about Jalen Hurts. It's like, I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah,
I got to be honest.
I've been listening to, you ever hear of Napoleon Hill?
No.
Napoleon Hill, legendary businessman, probably wrote some of the more well-known, best-selling success books of our time from the 1930s and 40s. Was friends with Henry Ford, was friends with Andrew Carnegie. This guy, audio books, Outwitting the Devil, dude, phenomenal waking up stuff.
So that's
way better than
right now.
way better than sports radio WIP. I'll be honest.
I hear you. And I'm just kind of tuned out of it. I don't want to hear about the Phillies, number one, especially after I watched
Because
them
you want to
lose.
see. You want to see. You don't want
Right.
to hear. You
I
want to
don't wanna
see.
hear
and
it
here, we'll
right
just
now.
go to it now because we covered some birds, and we'll get into it with our guy, Jon Marks.
Yes.
We'll talk about it all. But here's the thing, Tek. We talked about this maybe a month or two ago. I said, look, the Braves are probably going to get to within 4 or 5 games, and you'll see what the Phillies are made of. August is their toughest month. We said this in June. Here you go. This is do or die. You're going to find out if A, they're ready for the postseason, or B, they are not really a postseason
I
team.
was going to hold off on the Phils, but you know what? Let's just get right into
Why
it right
not,
now.
dude? Let's do
All
it.
right. The Phils, they finished June and July with a 25-25 record. That makes them a 500 team for practically a third of the season.
It sure does.
They lost 5 straight series, including a sweep at home for the first time in 2 years. Bryce
That's
Harper,
impressive on its face, though, right there.
right there, yes.
That's pretty good.
Bryce Harper looks like one of the worst players in baseball right
He's
now.
struggling, man. He's struggling.
And, you know, the deadline moves didn't really move a needle.
I like
for me.
Hayes, though. Hayes is a solid player. That's an upgrade.
Barely, I guess.
I mean, he's the reason you're in that one Yankees game.
Yeah, but here's the problem with Hayes. He's a platoon guy that they don't want to make a platoon guy. He's not an everyday player.
I disagree with you.
Really?
I do.
I don't see him as
think
an everyday
Hayes,
player.
Austin Hayes it was a numbers game in Baltimore. They had too many serviceable and above serviceable guys in that spot.
He's an all-star last year, but they knew
Right.
after the year, this guy is coming off of an all-star year, and they were already planning
they
to replace
they sold
him.
high. They sold high on him.
We,
When you're coming off an all-star year,
We-
your stock is higher than it normally would be.
but what did they really get for him?
Right, not
A
much.
guy that they DFA'd and another guy who, by the way, threw 2 wild pitches in his first appearance with them.
Yeah, but
that
you know
night.
what, though? I looked at some of the box scores. Dominguez has actually pitched okay for them so far.
He pitched okay for
Yeah.
us.
And
He's
so then
that's
what you're saying
he's
is
an okay guy.
So yeah, you got Hayes.
You got an
for,
okay
you
guy
got
for an
Hayes
okay
for
guy.
lesser value. I think that's.
I think Marsh should be playing every day.
He
I don't
should
think
be.
he should be. I think, for me,
defender of the month, most defensive runs saved of any outfielder this season. Brendan Marsh, you know that?
I think Marsh should be playing every day.
I said that. I said that multiple times. Brandon Marsh, everyday player.
I think Rob Thompson has ruined Bryson Stott, and I say this because
he's on a tear lately, though.
Because
he's the only bright side.
He's one of the only bright sides, along with Castellanos, by the way. Which is
Casty really got it together.
Really weird.
Hey, that's baseball, bro. They go through slumps.
I know, but I feel like Stott had a bad year because he should never have not been an everyday guy. He is an everyday guy.
He is.
I don't care about
Yeah.
analytics or
Yeah.
who says what, and he hits 200 against this and 289. I don't care about any
Well,
of
what
that.
messed that up was the Trey injury because then Sosa played himself into more starts. So as a
Which
result,
was a mistake because then he got exposed.
Andy's a righty.
And he ain't been the same.
But Andy's a righty. So
Right.
then Rob's thinking, okay, well, Sosa has shown me what he's a good player. Now I can put him in for, to give Stott rests against lefties.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what was happening for a bit. And I think you're right. I think it affected Stott's development.
It did.
But he's a young player. These guys bounce
I
back.
know,
I could see Stott coming back next year hitting 300.
That's what I'm saying. Now it's reset, but now it's next year. But we're stuck in this year.
He's turned it
where
on lately, though.
Where it's World Series or bust
Kid's
for this
hitting
team.
like 400 his
No,
last 7 games.
Yeah, I get it. He's actually been
And
a bright side.
It's a game of streaks.
But don't you understand that when he looks good for 2 games and then that third game he's not in the lineup and they bring him in a pinch hit, I'm like, dude, he should be in the lineup.
He's a Gold Glover number
Thompson, a guy plays well the next day. Thompson benches him as long as it's not Castellanos.
Yeah.
God forbid he gets.
Well, look,
off.
it's a good thing he stuck with Casty because Casty, really, if you look at where his average was to where it is now,
I get it.
The guy's hit almost 300 since he was horrible.
Yeah, I know.
You know, when you balance
But
it all out,
the top of the lineup is dreadful.
It's really been
and
bad.
it's been and that is your moneymaker.
you know what
right
I would
there.
do if I was Rob, and this won't happen. I would shake it up to get these guys off their spot. I would probably reshuffle the top of the order, and what I would do is I would go Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber. I would go, right, left, but shake up that top 4. And I think that could
would do
spurn them.
something.
You got to spurn them a little bit.
And the bullpen, Little League Rob, man, he can't help himself. He cares so much about being loyal to the guys, and I want my guys to know I believe in them. That's Little League mentality, man. I want winning mentality. I don't want when it's a close game to go to Ruiz. Why? Why
I
is
agree
he
with you.
even here?
I agree with you. No, and in his defense, though, you still have the third best pitching staff in all of baseball, even with the recent struggles.
I know, but I got to go with now. And
they're only .10 ERA points off the tops.
With the last 5 series, the micro over the macro right now. I have to.
You still got the second best whip in all of baseball behind the Mariners, actually.
I'm just not seeing signs of life, and the bullpen has fallen apart. But the starting pitching does enough to keep you in these games.
It does.
The bullpen does enough to get you out of those games, and the offense does nothing.
Well, you lost the other day because Sanchez had a 4 spot put up on him. That's why you lost that game. Because after that 4 spot...
after that grand slam. And and you know what's funny? The day before, Gary Sheffield Jr., our boy, he was on Twitter going crazy on Aaron Boone. Because Aaron Boone... continuously, he just can't help himself. He loves LeMahieu so much for his glove that he subs him in, and it hurts our offense. And then the very next day, LeMahieu, it's the grand slam.
Well, that's how it goes, man. Every day is in baseball. Every day is its own beast. It really is.
I know.
A lot of these guys are not going to tear it up every day, and unfortunately, a lot of these guys aren't going to slump every day. But lately, that's what's been happening. But what that tells me,
they collectively slump. They do it together.
But then they collectively get out of it too. And
well, I hope. But I'll tell you, for me, I was rolling with you for a few series. We're on the 5th straight series loss, and
I know
the Mariners. They're a good home team. Teams don't hit big time in Seattle.
31-23
I
at home.
I expect another series loss. And then going to LA this time, I expect another. When you hit 7 series losses, this doesn't feel any longer to me like the ebbs and flows.
Well, I mean, it could go either way. These next 2 series go either way because they know where they're at right now, and that urgency. See, one thing I said the other day, they haven't had pressure all season, right? There's been no pressure. It's good that there's pressure on them now because it's August.
They're not responding.
But we don't know yet. This is the first games in August. I'm saying
you have to straight series.
You have to see right, exactly. That's in the rear view. That's in the rear view. What I'm getting at is, it's good that there's now pressure on them because there wasn't previously any pressure on them. They've had an 8 to 10 game lead for 85% of the season. They've had an 8 to 10 game lead. Now there's pressure on them. And this is and in the postseason, the entire postseason is what? Pressure, right?
Yeah.
So if you have all this pressure on you now, it's a test run to me for if they can come out of this and actually have a winning August with as hard as the schedule is, then you're right back where you need to be. And you know what? People are going to say, all right, well, they had a winning August after that horrible June and July. Now we think they can maybe do something in the postseason. Or it's what you're saying. It's one or the other. And to me, it's a coin flip because we've seen the best and the worst so far. But the worst has been 500 ball.
I just can't.
The worst is 500 ball.
I can't take another 10-1. That's what it feels like to me.
Right.
It feels like the Eagles had the best record in football, and before you knew it, it was over. And I just don't want that.
Yeah, but
to
162
happen
is different
with the
than
Bills. I know it is. I know it is.
Really
I know. I'm just saying. It just felt like the best record in football didn't mean much at 10-1 because you knew that something was going to happen.
Well, they had other stuff going on behind the scenes there that is remedied now.
True, but I look at this Phils team, and I just, to me, right now, at this very moment, I'm going in the moment because I'm telling you, obviously, just like you said, things could change, and I kind of expect them to change, to be honest. But at this moment, right now, as we sit here,
right.
They don't look like a team that's winning the World Series.
Well, I mean, hey, look, yeah, you could say that. You could say that about people will say that in New York about the Yankees too right now. You know, the Yankees went through a stretch worse than the Phils did.
And also, the decision not to trade for Jazz Chisholm looks foolish at this point.
Oh, yeah.
The way he did
he's always, even when he was in the Marlins. And I was at the game, the 12-inning game. I was at that one. And I was in the stands with a couple Yankees fans who are clients of mine from Long Island. We took them to the game. And they had a blast. In the ninth inning, though, when the bases are loaded, my homie from New York, he's sitting down. Everyone's standing up. He's like, I'm not even watching. I know what's going to happen. Me when Bryce was up. And then that ball kicks off of the first baseman to the second baseman to the pitcher. I've never seen anything like it.
By the way, that's safe if he hustles. If he breaks out of the box, he didn't hustle, and I was done with him. At that moment, I said, I'm done with Bryce
that part's frustrating. You don't really understand that
magic moment is gone for him now.
For now, though. For now. These things are not permanent. These things are not permanent.
We know him to be built for. Yeah. He just is not right now.
These things are not permanent, though, Tek. There's too many games in a season.
I get it. All right. we will hit the vet line with our guy Johnny Marks. But first, brought to you by the Fairless Hills Academy of Music, it's time for VetPhact.
This is a VetPhact.
Well, Tek, going back to another era when they won a lot of baseball games, August 3rd, 1982, the Montreal Expos would come to town, and the Phils would edge them 3-2. All of the scoring, Tek, was done in the 6th inning. The Expos got 2 in the top half, and the Phils answered right back with 3 in the bottom half. So you get the 3-2 victory, an otherwise quiet game, but really, Pete Rose was the driving force here. Not that crazy to say that in those days.
Yeah.
3 for 4 with a run scored, but Bo Diaz drives in 2 of the 3 Phillies runs. Catcher Bo Diaz. Manny Trio drives in the other Phils run. They were only 1 for 5 on the day with runners in scoring position. This win gave them their 60th win of the season. They would finish today at 60-43, an era where they were great. In 82, they didn't go to the NLCS, though. We know that. But, 34,306. Only half the vet was filled for this. It's so odd to me.
Those were the days.
Pitcher Mike Krukow gets the W, going 7 1/3, a quality start.
I don't even know who that is.
Mike Krukow, I've seen his name a couple times from that era.
I don't even
2 runs allowed, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. He actually only had a 2.71 ERA after this game. He was one of their better starters on the year.
There you go.
Ron Reed gets the 2-inning save, 4-out save, I should say. No hits, no walks, no strikeouts, but got the job done against an Expos team that was kind of nipping at their heels, 54-49. They were lingering. The Expos in that era, they weren't a bad team. They weren't a great team. They had Tim Raines, Andre Dawson, Gary Carter, Tim Wallach. Just a who's who of baseball cards we used to collect.
Yeah, I know all those guys from that era.
Yeah,
Raines.
Andre Dawson, he was a home run machine back in the day. So, the Phils, they get 6 hits on the day to match the Expos' 6 hits. All the scoring in the 6th inning. What an odd night at the vet. The Expos, though, Tek, commit 2 key errors that were probably the difference. August 3rd, 1982, the Phils edge them out for the 3-2 victory.
There it is. All right, let's hit the vet line with our guy Johnny Marks. Next.
Vet Alumni. And now, it's the Vet Line.
Why don't you answer your phone?
Joined now on the Vet Line by Jon Marks, of course, formerly of WIP. Follow on all platforms at Jon Marks Media. Marks, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Whenever I see your stuff or listen to your stuff, and I think of Veteran Stadium, the first thing, for whatever reason, that comes to mind is I used to throw ketchup and mustard packets from the seats, like down on the concourse.
Yes.
And I used to watch people step on them, and it would shoot the ketchup all over their leg or other people's legs.
I think I actually was a victim. I was a victim once.
I've been a victim. Yeah, I've been a victim.
Yeah, that was... Man.
Just at Phillies games, because Eagles games, there was more action that was going on. But the Phillies were so shitty for most of those years.
Yes.
That's really all you had to do was throw ketchup and mustard on the ground and watch people step on it.
They were sneaker killers. Sneaker
killers. And Tek's a sneaker guy, so that doesn't go over too well.
I was very upset a couple different times. Yes, it did happen.
Total dick move looking back.
Times have changed. We'll start with the Phils, though, only because the season is actively underway. Jekyll and Hyde, we know that this is do or die. We're going to find out what the Phillies are in August. Looking at this schedule a few months ago, I said, hey, that's the month that could make or break them. What do you think happens in August with the Phils?
And so you got a 10-game road trip, and kind of when you started this run, it was like, all right, you got 3 games against the Yankees, and then you go to Seattle, go to Los Angeles, go to Arizona. And I was concerned about it. I was on Channel 3, their Sports Zone, last Sunday night, and I said then, and I'll say it now, and I didn't think they would get swept by the Yankees, but put on your seatbelt because it might be a bumpy ride here for the next 10 games. I would sign up for this right now in these next 10 games. I would sign up for 4 wins and 6 losses. And come home, you lose two games from being 500, and I just want to get home in one piece and not totally feel like, holy crap, we're in big trouble. They have 7 games on the Braves. They have 7.5 games on the Mets. I actually didn't see what happened last night. But like, this ain't a done deal. The way the Mets are playing and just the kind of momentum that the Mets have right now, who the hell knows? But I'll wrap up that by saying this, that it's a long season and the ebbs and the flows and the ups and the downs of 162 games. This is the first taste we're really getting of the downs.
Right.
So if you believe in this team and you believe in the players and you believe the back of the baseball card on Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner and even Nick Castellanos, who has played very well recently, and their starting pitching staff, then you have to at least believe that the team isn't going to totally have an Eagles-type meltdown here in August and September. But, like, also, you have to be worried about, is the starting pitching starting to run out of gas? Ranger Suarez is on the IL. He didn't look the same. Christopher Sanchez, he wasn't great in his last start. It was kind of a fluky of a grand slam. All I'm saying is that I'm believing, but let's see what happens when they come home. I'll see how confident I am in this team and how much I still believe in them.
I think you nailed it. We were talking earlier about the whole 10-1 Eagles thing and the idea of that, how that translates to this season for the Phils. Hopefully not, but how it could if this trend continues. Bryce is the kind of guy, in my opinion, talking about the back of the baseball card, that is more the great Bryce than the non-hustle 0 for 75,000 Bryce that we've seen lately. And it's really telling. I was saying earlier too, John, I think that you're going to find out if they are truly ready to be a World Series team this month. With that said, who do you think needs to be the guy to spark the turnaround in the lineup?
Yeah, Bryce Harper.
Exactly.
You said it. Bryce Harper. It's the first time I've seen it. And we've seen Bryce struggle before. Hitting is so difficult. And when you get in one of these slumps that's clearly mental because you're pressing too much or you're overthinking it, Bryce isn't one of these guys that when he gets up there that he's like, nope, I'm going to have the same consistent swing every time. No, he's always tinkering with his stance. Like he tries to work himself out of it, which I like. But I saw in game 2 of that Yankees series, I forget exactly what the out was, but he kind of had a spooked look on his face. And it's not something I've seen from Bryce Harper before. Normally when the big moment happens, you're not going to be 10 for 10 or 100 for 100, but you didn't want anybody else coming up in big spots than Bryce Harper. And what we saw in the Yankees series was he's killing them. 0 for 14, 5 strikeouts. Since the All-Star break, he's batting 115. So this may be the perfect reset. They get the day off. They get the pressure of playing in Philly. So think about this. Bryce Harper, when he was growing up, was a Yankee fan. He's from Vegas. He's a bandwagon fan, right? So he likes Duke. He likes Ohio State. He likes the Yankees. He likes the Cowboys, right? So he's kind of coming out of the All-Star break. You have the Yankees coming into town. He's Bryce freaking Harper, and the Yankees are crushing the ball. Aaron Judge is a monster, and Bryce is struggling. And he looked like he was mentally struggling and just pressing up there. So if there's ever been a better time, and this is what everybody's saying right now, perfect time to have a West Coast trip, get out of town on the road for 10 days. The problem is, Seattle's good.
They are.
The Dodgers, they swept the Dodgers earlier in the season. Yeah. So there's revenge there. And I think they didn't sweep the Diamondbacks, but I think they won 2 or 3. And the D-backs are playing very well right now.
They are.
So it's a tough 10 games. So it's not like you're going out there and you're playing the Giants, you're playing the Padres, you're there's going to be 10 very good games. So I'm excited to see where the Phillies are. And after these 10 games, I agree with you. I think we'll know how this team responds and if we're really looking at a World Series type team.
Yeah, and to your point, the Diamondbacks, believe it or not, Marks, lead the majors in runs scored now. And the Mariners have the best whip in all of baseball. And they're 8 games over 500 at home. So what that tells me is Phil's win. That's what that tells me. This is how these things go.
Is that what it tells you?
You got to go opposites with this stuff. Because if it was the Mariners were in last place in the West, they would lose 2 or 3 because that's the last place team.
All right, so here's where I'll counter that because you're right. But see, I don't know what everybody's saying. Is everybody saying the Phillies are fucked and they're going out there to lose? Or are most people saying, like me, it's the perfect time to get away and to go out to the West Coast.
Yeah, I think
and
it's
the
a
Phillies
split.
will be fine.
I think it's a split because Tek is saying the second part, the negative, and I'm saying kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. And it wouldn't be the first time that a team in sports played their best baseball, their best football, or whatever in the first half of the season, and then they kind of ran out of gas. The starting pitching staff was not going to be able to pitch like this the entire season.
No.
They just weren't.
No.
They had 3 starters in the All-Star game.
Unreal.
They had 2 relievers in the All-Star game. Now you're seeing Straub's going through a rough patch. Hoffman's kind of been down a little bit. Kerkering, that's the least impressive 2-point-something ERA that I can remember from anybody.
Completely.
I like Kerkering, but do you ever feel like, is he coming in a high leverage situation and you feel great about
No.
it? I
Never.
don't know. I don't feel
Never.
No.
The moment's always too big for him.
It feels that way.
It is.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So, man, this is definitely a bumpy stretch, but they can make people feel a lot better by turning it around.
Let's fast forward a bit, okay? If the Phils don't get past the NLCS for the second straight year, does Rob Thompson survive?
Yes, I think he does, but I know where you're going with that, and I'm kind of in the same ballpark as you. I like Topper. I think the guys like him. I think he plays for him, and his type of personality and the way that he manages the team, which is a veteran team. I think it works for this group, but you also can't feel like your manager when there needs to be moves made in playoff series or even games. When you feel like what is he doing? Why would you leave Garrett Stubbs in there, or why would
Right. Yes.
And I hate to try to criticize Charlie Manuel because this isn't a criticism, but Charlie's strengths as a manager are a lot like Topper's. He had supreme talent, and those guys loved him and played for him. And Charlie would get after guys. People thought that he wouldn't get after guys. He'd get after guys, but strategically, I feel like when I watch other managers that I would have far more confidence in them in making the right move. When you can just autopilot your lineup and your starting pitchers are giving you 7 every time and you go 8-9, it's easy to win games.
Yeah.
Right.
But when guys go cold and when you need to move guys around, I don't think Topper's been good at that the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Manuel benched Jimmy Rollins.
He did.
Yeah.
Now, that's equivalent to right now Bryce for not hustling getting benched.
He won't do it. He won't bench. He won't bench
benching
Bryce.
No, I
He
know.
won't bench. God forbid Castellanos gets a day
No,
off.
but Casty,
I know. He's been good.
turned it around.
He's been good lately, but God forbid, you know what I mean? The guy was one of the worst guys ever, and he every day with that clockwork,
I know.
every day, Jesus Christ. So, all right, let's transition to the Birds.
Yes, let's do
training
it.
camp just started, and they just had the open practice. Now, everything I'm reading, John, everybody looks good. Jalen Hurts looks sharp. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. The opposite of the Phillies right now. What are your biggest question marks going in to this season?
The head coach and quarterback relationship, which, well, I mean, they played. Jalen finally played the game and acted like him and Nick are great and there's no problems or whatever. So at least he finally played the game, which was long overdue. I heard the Eagles were pissed at the way he handled himself before at the mini camps.
Yeah, I understand.
But I mean, so here's my biggest concern, and I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. And ultimately, if you're asking me if I think he bounces back this year, I mean, he had a really, really good first 3 quarters of the season last year, and then everything kind of fell apart. But we've seen this happen so many times before in football, where you get a player, in particular a quarterback or an offense, and they're rolling, and then one defensive coordinator figures things out, and they're never the same. And last year and afterwards, I forget which 49ers
San Francisco,
said it,
Yeah.
but they said Jalen's looking at the rush every time. And he was looking at the line. He wasn't looking downfield. He wasn't comfortable in the pocket. He wasn't throwing with the same confidence because he wasn't stepping up. And even when he wasn't getting pressure, because I don't think the offensive line played particularly well last year, but he was sensing pressure that wasn't there. So when you have a quarterback that isn't seeing the field well, that is more worried about pressure on him than looking at who's open down the field, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to chalk it up to Brian Johnson was ill-equipped to handle it. Nick Sirianni was just clueless and wouldn't take over the job. And I thought Jeff Stoutman was supposed to be, like Hall of Famer coach or whatever.
Right. That's like the Birds. That's the Birds last year.
No. So I don't really know the explanation for that, but they better have an answer. Jalen Hurts became, at the end of the last year, the last quarter of the season, one of the most blitzed quarterbacks in football, and it worked.
Yeah, it did.
So
yeah.
I think Kellen Moore, who has a clue what's going on, and he's going to be a really, really big addition. We talk about Saquon. We talk about the other guys that were added in Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is going to be fine. He's going to be good. To me, it's the personnel. But with the offense, they have plenty of talent. But if Jalen Hurts is playing like Jalen Hurts did, Jalen Hurts needs to be playing at the level he did in 2022 if this team's going to win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Period. End of story.
Absolutely.
And I think that's up for debate based on his play at the end of the season.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, but like you said, you got the ultimate equalizer, Captain Thighs, behind him. This dude is a monster. I mean, they could run the option every couple plays. I've said it time and again, and they probably would get a lot of first downs. You got to hope that Jalen isn't a deer in headlights this year.
It can't be.
Yeah, and I think. And I love Saquon Barkley out of the backfield as a receiver. For whatever reason, this team doesn't do screens. They don't throw well to the running backs. I thought Swift was going to have more action last season because he's always typically been a good receiver as a running back. He didn't see it. Saquon, I mean, I want to talk about a dynamic weapon. Saquon in the passing game, in my opinion, is even more of a weapon than in the running game, which I think he's going to run for 1,000 yards if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of weapons from tight end to wide receivers to Saquon Barkley. I think the offensive line's going to be okay. They got to put it together. And teams aren't going to stop coming to Jalen. Jalen was voted 15th in the NFL 100 by the players. So the players are still viewing him as a top player. All right. Then let's see it again this year because it goes very quickly. You go from being a darling top 10, top 15 player to barely making the list in just a couple of seasons. So let's hope that he bounces back because he had a great first 2/3 of the season, and then that last third of the season was stinky.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you mentioned that they just don't use the screen pass for over a decade. An Andy Reid staple was the screen pass.
I know, man.
So it's just
Bread and
so crazy that Jalen Hurts just has not been able to utilize that.
I think Kellen Moore changes
play.
that, though. I think Kellen Moore, he's the captain of the quarterback outlet, the quarterback safety valve.
Look, put him under center. Do those play action screen passes that Andy used to do.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, that's,
right.
It's so easy and effective. All right, let's flip
and real fast, because people always shit on Donovan, and I can sometimes too. He was excellent at selling the screen.
He was.
Donovan was very good in the screen game, and they had Brian Westbrook, which also helps. Too.
Oh man, he would bait them in, like you're saying, John. He would bait them in.
McNabb sometimes would fool the announcers. That's how good he was at the play fake. He was really good.
Yep.
Let's flip to the defense. Bradbury moving to safety. Will that save him from being cut?
Will it save him from being traded? Maybe not. I just don't think anybody wants him.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants him.
I would have to, and honestly, I haven't been paying as close of attention, not being on the radio every day, to what the cap ramifications would be for Bradbury. I think now they can split up the cap, the dead cap. But if it's actually saves you money to keep him, which I think it does. At this point,
you do it.
Yeah, you just keep him. What if you have an injury? At least this guy's been around. Like I know he was terrible last year as corner.
He can't be that bad.
But as a backup safety or a nickel guy, I think he's good. So I like him on the team as a backup.
Yeah, and he alternates good and bad years. That's this guy's MO. It's his MO. He's done it since he was in Carolina, and then the Giants after that, right? I think Bradbury actually is very much worth keeping on this roster, if anything, to mentor some of these young guys like the Cooper DeJeans.
Yeah, who's hurt right now.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay, though. He'll be all right. You know, we're 6 days away, Marks, from the preseason opener against the Ravens. What's your excitement level from 1 to 10 for this preseason to get going?
Listen, I can't wait to see Tanner Scott play, and what other backups are going to play.
What's his name? Is that his name?
Did you guys watch the Hall of Fame game?
Oh, McKee.
No, did
Tanner
not
McKee,
watch the Hall of Fame
Tanner
game.
McKee. That's hilarious.
Tanner McKee, yeah.
That's like when I called the guy West.
I like him. You knew who I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't like, because Schefter puts out the tweet like, the Hall of Fame football starts tonight. And I'm like, yeah, all right, like I'll probably tune in. But,
yeah.
And I did, and it was rain shortened. They stopped it because of the weather. But like I tuned in, and it's like, all right, I can always watch football. But yeah, like this is a team that if they don't win the Super Bowl, or even if they get to the Super Bowl, and I know the details matter, but Eagles won a Super Bowl in calendar year 2018. They were back in not even 2 years ago. So anything outside of a Super Bowl is not going to be good enough. And really, going in the season, like they can't get off to a slow start.
No.
Everybody is ready to pounce on Sirianni. They need a quick start. The last thing you need is a weekly Sirianni fire, WIP, fire Sirianni, fire Sirianni, fire Sirianni. It's ready and it's coming. So not having a slow start and starting out 3-1 will be best for everybody. Otherwise, it could get ugly.
Absolutely, and it would not take long. Jon Marks on the Vet Line at Jon Marks Media. Before we let you go, John, true or false, the 76ers will escape the second round?
Have they done enough, John? Have they done enough?
Yeah, I mean, yes, they've done enough, but ultimately
it won't be enough.
Well, I mean, like they have to figure out how to win games that win series.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Joel Embiid's had monster games in the playoffs. He's also had games where you're like, what is he doing?
I know.
Right. Why is he so erratic? Like, this is not the game to be playing like this. So I generally am supportive of Joel Embiid. He's a tremendous talent. I also believe that part of what comes with Embiid is kind of a loser, that loserish
I
thing.
agree.
Yes.
I agree, man.
Yes.
So until he remember when LeBron couldn't get over the hump and couldn't win a title? He lost to Dallas. They lost to Dallas.
Yep.
And people shit on him. And the LeBron lovers were like, that's not fair. Like, until he gets over the hump and he wins, that's going to be the label. Joel Embiid's had plenty of time here where he should have made an Eastern Conference final.
Yep.
Sometimes it's circumstance. Sometimes you get lucky. And like the Atlanta Hawks made an Eastern Conference final by beating the Sixers, by the way.
No, man.
Yep.
But so like, I don't know. The Knicks have been in an Eastern Conference final. Forget Dante Exum was in an NBA finals last year before Joel Embiid has been in NBA finals. The clock's ticking. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I like Paul George. Paul George is obviously a good player, and it's the best that they could have done from the available options. But if you're asking me honestly, if I have a lot of confidence that the Sixers are going to get over the second round hump, I don't. Because it has to be, these guys have to figure out a way to win, and they need somebody on the team that says, we're not losing. Like, fuck this. We're not losing. I don't know if they have that guy.
Yeah, I'll go over-under on Maxey, George, and Embiid, amount of games played together, including postseason. Over-under, I'm going like 49. That's just where it's at for me. I
think that's up. I think you said 44 before. I think you're up.
Did I say 44?
Yeah, I think you're up. Yeah.
Okay,
but that's okay. That's all right.
We'll see.
49.
But I'm all birds and all Phils right now. Marks, thanks for joining us as always, man. We love getting your insight on these things, and hopefully we're celebrating something on Broad Street real soon.
It's always fun. Appreciate it.
Need a better betting app? You need Rhythm.
Rhythm makes it easy to find AI-backed picks and player props for every single NFL, NBA, and game. You can build custom sports betting models or have AI build them for you and start getting recommended bets, score predictions, and more that will help you become a better bettor. Download Rhythm now and start getting free picks daily. Rhythm is the place for data-backed props and picks. RITHMM.
Rhythm is a proud partner of the Vet Alumni Podcast. Have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. It's time for Prem's Picks.
These games are a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your children's unborn children on these games.
Prem's Picks. We're coming off a tremendous week.
We are. My first 3-0 week of the season.
Yes.
I'm now at 18-15, right where I should be, above 500, coming down 2 more months of baseball.
And now you can't go wrong. You can't get any less than 500 at this point now.
It seems to be the case because preceding that 3-0 week was 3 straight 2-1 weeks to get myself back in the game.
Yep.
And here I am, and I intend to stay there, Tek, with 3 locks for this Saturday.
Here we go.
Zach Eflin is now an Oriole.
Yes, he is.
And there's a good matchup.
They got tons of ex-Phils on that.
They do. It's a good matchup. The O's going to play the Guardians, the best team in baseball.
Right now.
It's going to be,
They don't got enough to be the best, but
they don't.
They got the best record right now.
And it's in Cleveland. But you know what? I think the O's go out there with Zach Eflin and get the win, Tek. I think that Zach will do enough. And the O's have actually been scoring some runs lately. They are not hitting the ball. They are smoking the ball lately. You got this kid going for the Guardians, Cantillo, with an 8.10 ERA.
Doesn't seem to matter for them, though. But, yeah, I hear you.
I think the O's do enough to get it done. They're in a dogfight with the Yankees in the AL East. Give me the O's in Cleveland. Lock. Another former Phil getting a road start. He threw a no-hitter for the Phils. We know him as Michael Lorenzen. He is now a Kansas City Royal, and they have an interdivisional AL Central matchup at the Tigers. The Tigers aren't a great team.
Another ex-Phil.
We know that. I'm going with another ex-Phil, getting the start on the road. Lorenzen and the Royals have actually been a very serviceable team this year, 62-49.
Yeah.
Not a bad team.
No.
I like Lorenzen to go out there. The Tigers haven't even announced their starter yet. It might even be a bullpen game for them. Give me the Royals in Detroit to get the win, and that's a lock. The only home winner I'm giving you on the week, Tek, is those pesky Pittsburgh Pirates hosting the top-scoring team in baseball, the Arizona D-backs. We just talked about that with Marks. You got Mitch Keller going for the Pirates at home. Keller's pretty good, 10-5, 3.3 ERA.
He is good.
Jordan Montgomery going for the Diamondbacks, 6.5 on ERA. Kind of past his prime, we know that. D-backs score, but the Pirates they have an uncanny ability to win these weekend games at PNC Park. I think that they're going to hang around and they're going to get a win with some late runs. You know, they're only 2.5 back of a wild card. Guess who holds that spot? The Arizona Diamondbacks. They're going against a team they're chasing in Pittsburgh.
It's a good series.
Yeah, it is a good series. Give me the Pirates with Keller on the mound. Lock. So to recap, Tek, we got Eflin starting for the O's at Cleveland. The O's to get the win. Michael Lorenzen, now a KC Royal at Detroit to get the win. And the Pirates hold and serve at home, PNC Park, a place I went to many times as a student of Pitt. Over to D-backs to get the win. This has been Prem's MLB Picks.
Phillies, please wake up. Wake up. Wake up. All right, we will see you next week.
Vet Alumni.